Okay, you're live.
Everybody out there. So, I say I really don't like to talk about politics, but how could you not talk about politics in this atmosphere? It's like my father told me when I was a kid that the government was the real mafia. Matter of fact, speaking of my father, today, August 16th, is my father's 97th birthday. So if he's listening to this show, I want to wish him a happy birthday. Today's his 97th birthday. He was born in 1926. So it was kind of not a sad day, but, I spent the day alone, most of the day alone. I had off today from work and, just thinking about, him most of the day, and things we did together. So I just want to put that out there that today was his 97th birthday. I posted some stuff on my social media platforms. I got some nice responses. And it's funny because, speaking about politics, so today, as everybody knows, Trump was indicted in Georgia once again. It's so hilarious that every time there's some kind of news about Hunter Biden's laptop, the next day Trump gets a new indictment. But this one was kind of like I don't think what's going on is right. I think it's, I think that it's dangerous what's happening. It's scary, how they're going after this guy and how the government is weaponized because, like I always said, and I was always taught that that's the real mafia. And the ironic part of the whole thing that his co-defendant is Rudy Giuliani, who put many of my friends in prison when he was a U.S. attorney for RICOs. My father hated Rudy Giuliani. Speaking of my father, on his birthday today, he hated him with a passion because he was an Italian going after Italians when he was the U.S. attorney. He brought on the commission case, because he read a book and he put a lot of people in prison, the Pizza Connection case. I mean, I was away with a lot of guys that were on that case. And now it's ironic that he got indicted for RICO, and I'm sort of like upset over what's going on with the government being weaponized, but like I'm a little happy that he got indicted for RICO. Let's see now how he likes it. When everything's against him, when the deck is stacked against him, because when we get indicted for RICOs, the deck is stacked against us. I mean, we got like hardly any shot. The conviction rate is like 90-something% for the government. I mean, they hold all the cards. I mean, I got indicted for 2 federal RICOs and a state RICO, a New York State RICO, because the states adopted the RICO from the feds. They made it a little different, a couple of little tweaks here and there, but it's still a RICO. It's still an ongoing criminal conspiracy. And, now let's see how he likes it. Let's see what he's going to do about it, because he brought on a lot of RICO cases. But, it's still scary what's going on. I mean, it's in your face. I mean, it just doesn't have no common sense about it. I mean, people, a lot of hate out there. Everybody hates. I mean, it's a terrible word, the word hate. I mean, to hate something or hate somebody. I mean, the people that hate Trump don't care what's going on. And what's going on is crazy. I mean, they're going after this guy blindly. I mean, it's just outrageous what they're doing. And nobody cares. I mean, the people that hate him, they're happy for it. But, I personally believe that even if he gets convicted, what president isn't going to pardon him? I mean, why wouldn't a president pardon him when if he goes to jail, that means another president could go to jail? I know if I'm the president, I'm going to pardon him because, to protect the office. But that's in the future, so I don't want to jump ahead. But it's just ironic that that Giuliani got indicted for a RICO, what goes around comes around, I guess, right? What goes around comes around. So now the real mafia is fighting against the real mafia. So we'll see how that turns out. So I just got a question of how I would fix the Yankees, because I guess everybody knows I'm a big Yankee fan. How I would fix the Yankees? Well, the first thing I would do, I would fire Boone and Cashman on the same day. I would have fired them weeks ago, right? And I would have fired them right weeks ago and blew the whole thing up and let these players know like what the deal is. The other day, like I saw a picture. They're losing to the Atlanta Braves 11-3. It's the top of the ninth. It's in Atlanta. The Yankees are in the dugout, and I saw a picture of Aaron Judge and Gene, Stanton and Rizzo, Anthony Rizzo, on the top step of the dugout against the rail, and they're laughing. Like fans take it more serious than them. I took it more serious than them. Like that wouldn't happen if Billy Martin was the manager. Like if Billy Martin was the manager and they were getting beat up like that, and they were having a season like they're having, and he saw them laughing, he would have threw punches at them. This Boone is useless. I think analytics are ruining the game. I don't give a shit what anybody tells me about analytics. I think it's a joke. Boone has no match for a guy that comes from a baseball family. He has no baseball instincts whatsoever. He's like a machine. The guy comes out after the fifth inning, no matter if he throws 80 pitches or 120 pitches, no matter how good the guy's pitching, he's out. He takes guys out when he's not supposed to. He leaves guys in when he's not supposed to. He's horrible. He doesn't have nobody fears him. What goes on is just a joke. Cashman is terrible. I mean, the guy just wore out his welcome. And I told my son the other night, they better all thank God that George Steinbrenner is dead, because they would have all been thrown out of that stadium. They should thank God George Steinbrenner is dead. And this kid, Hal Steinbrenner, he's a stiff. He don't do nothing. You don't hear a peep out of him. I mean, the father would have been in the locker room screaming at them. You don't hear a peep out of him. You don't want to spend no money. I mean, everything's the luxury tax, and meanwhile, he's taking it down. Every game's a sellout. I mean, they played the Marlins the other day. They sold out Marlins Stadium. Marlins Stadium's never sold out. That was advanced tickets, because everybody that bought the tickets didn't realize how bad the Yankees, that they suck. But I would definitely start out with firing Cashman and Boone, without a doubt, just to do something, Hold on. I got a question. Did your dad tell you who threw Kid Twist out of the window? Everybody knows, though, it was the police officers. It's funny because when I was a kid, that was the Half Moon Hotel in Coney Island, and when I was a kid in the 50s and 60s, my grandmother took me to Coney Island many, 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 many days during the summer. And that was our spot. We would go to Nathan's and buy lunch, and then we walk up on the boardwalk and we walk down to the Half Moon Hotel and then head straight to the ocean. And that's where everybody knew where we were. That's where we used to meet, at the Half Moon Hotel. And, the cops, the mob paid off the cops, and the cops threw them out the window. I mean, that goes without saying. It had to be the police officers. I have another question here. I think they do anything to put him in jail for life. I don't see him getting a pardon. I guess you're talking about Trump. Of course, the people that hate him are going after him. They're protecting Biden, and they're trying to bury Trump, and that's the world we live in right now, and meanwhile, gas is $3.89 a gallon. I bought gas this morning, $3.89 a gallon. What year did Tough Tony get made? Tough Tony, I would say, got made probably as soon as the books opened up in the 70s, whenever that was, 75, 76. I remember when he got made, because I was hanging out in this club called the Lemon Tree. It was on Austin Street in Forest Hills, and a lot of his crew, this guy Mush and a couple of other guys that were around him at the time, were hanging out in there, and he wasn't straightened out yet. And then I remember when he did get straightened out, because one or two of them actually disappeared. Mush actually disappeared. He was a big coke dealer, and I guess Tony wanted to get rid of the evidence of guys that were around him with dealing drugs. So Mush disappeared, unfortunately. So yeah, that was probably in the as soon as the books opened. Did I ever go to Spaghetti Park in Corona? Oh, many times. I always when I went to parks. I never hung out in the park there, but I was there many times when I went to the restaurant to eat, when I went to Latique, when I went to Tony's After Hour Club there, when I went to Corona King to buy lemon ice. So yeah, I was there many times. Let's see. Do you ever plan to make a movie about your father, being that he was a legend? I'm working on some things now. I'm working on a book deal. Hopefully that will come into fruit, that will come about. And then through that, maybe, a script and a movie. That's the goal eventually, to have a movie or a series produced. I think we could show a lot through the eyes of my father's life. So yeah, that's the goal. Did I know Frankie D from Sheepshead Bay? Not to my knowledge. Maybe I did. I mean, I know so many people. Is Gene Barillo out of jail yet? That's my cousin. No, not to my knowledge. He's not out of jail. I'm sure I would have heard if he was. But no, Gene's not out of jail yet. But I know he's getting out pretty soon. Looking forward to that. Are there actual books? No, not really. But I think there is a list, when people get proposed, they do put your name on a list and they send it around so other families can look at it. But there's not an actual book. No, not to my knowledge anyway. Did I ever have any dealings with Bobby Louisi? No, I didn't. I know Bobby. I met him, a few years back. I never had any dealings with him. He was he was from another state. He was out of, Boston, and then he was with the Philadelphia crew. They straightened him out, but I never had any dealings with him. No. I can't. What was my favorite? I can't make this question. What was my favorite job scores back in the day? My favorite scores always came out of the Kennedy Airport. It was like an open book. I got a lot of swag out of the airport. Here's a good one, I guess. Have you talked to any guys still in the life after you cooperated with the government? Well, if I did, I wouldn't talk about it, especially on YouTube or anything. I wouldn't, put their names out there. But I do talk to people, but I'm not going to say their names or who they are. But there's still some people I talk to from the old days. Did your father ever speak to you about Carmine Gigante? Who was he really trying to be the boss of it? My father always told me that he was trying to, take over Canada. The Bonanno family had a lot to do with Canada, and with the heroin trade, and he wanted Canada, and I guess they weren't willing to give it up to him. So, he had to go. He's a dangerous guy trying to become the boss of that family. And, they wanted Rusty to be the boss. I want to welcome everybody that's on live. Waiting for some more questions to come in. Don't forget, everybody subscribe to my Patreon. And we could do this all the time. Do I have any stories about the Westies? The Westies were, a bunch of Irish kids from the West Side. It's funny because I was in Schuylkill with Kevin Kelly, who was one of the Westies, one of the main Westies, and we were cellmates for a few years in Schuylkill Federal Prison. And I just read recently that Jimmy Coonan, who was the boss of the Westies, is now in Schuylkill. And he's getting short. He had a lot of time, like 75 years, and he's on his way out. But the Westies, I don't even think they exist anymore. I mean, most of them are in the street right now. I know Kevin's in the street and his partner's in the street, and now Jimmy's on his way out. The stories I know are the same stories everybody else knows. They were affiliated with the Gambino family. Nino Gaggi serviced them through Roy DeMeo. They were killers. They were chopping people up. I mean, they were dangerous guys. They ran the west side of Manhattan. They had their hands in everything. The docks were theirs. The Broadway play, the Broadway theaters were theirs. The people that gave out the pamphlets, the the programs, they were all their relatives, their aunts, their sisters, their mothers. I mean, they had that neighborhood on lockdown through fear and intimidation, of course. Through the years, which band put the best live show on you ever see? Well, that goes without saying, I'm a big Rolling Stones fan. I love the Rolling Stones. I saw them many, 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 many times. So they put on, probably the best shows. I mean, I saw everybody, through the mob, through connections with the mob, through my father's connections and his friends. I mean, I saw Frank Sinatra. I saw Elvis Presley. I saw every Beatle live, just not together. I saw the Rolling Stones many, many times. I mean, I saw everybody. The only person I tell you I regret seeing, I never saw Dean Martin in person, and he was always somebody that I would have loved to see in person, but I never got a chance to see him, but I did see Sinatra a few times. I saw Elvis. I had the privilege of taking my grandmother to see Elvis when he made his comeback at Madison Square Garden, because she was a big Elvis Presley fan, my grandmother. So that was nice that I got a chance to take her to see Elvis. What was my biggest score in life? I don't, I made so many scores. I wasn't really, I wasn't like a hijacker, I wasn't that type of person, you know what I mean? I did hijack trucks, and I did buy loads out of Kennedy Airport, but I wasn't the guy that went in there and stole it, you know what I mean? So I always made money. I mean, always made money, lump sums, 20, 30, 40,000 at a time, but I never made like a big score, like a Lufthansa type thing or anything like that. I never did that. But, I had a lot of things going on at once. I had chop shops and credit card things going on. And, I had, gambling machines, and, so I had sports sheets and number books. So I always had a flow of money coming in, always had a big flow of money coming in from a lot of different things. I was the sort of guy that had a lot of crimes going on at the same time. But I never went like, I never did that big score like a Lufthansa thing. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. How was it seeing Sammy the Bull again? It was good. We clicked as soon as I saw him. Like I said, it was like we didn't miss a beat. It was like we saw each other yesterday, and we didn't see each other for 30 years. It was crazy. I walked in, and it was like we just clicked immediately. It was great. When the commission got indicted, where did all the money go that got kicked up to them? It went to them. It went to their underlings. It went to who the acting bosses were, acting captains were. I mean, pretty much once they all got convicted, the all new bosses became official, So I'm sure, they were all loaded. I mean, did they need any money? The Carmine was a multimillionaire. Tony Ducks was a multimillionaire. Tony Salerno was a multimillionaire. I mean, Chrissy Ticker was a millionaire. I mean, these guys were all rich, loaded anyway. They didn't need any money, but I'm sure they still got their end. Well, the guys around your father's skinny because they saw some photos of your father was not fat. My father, no, they weren't. There was some. I mean, they were normal, I guess. I don't know. They weren't skinny. I mean, skinny, but they were normal. Why are made men not allowed to deal in stocks? I don't know if that's true. I mean, I don't know if that's true today. I mean, today, the Mafia today, the mob today, what else could they deal in? I mean, I don't even, like, when I was coming up, we had so many things going on. I mean, that aren't around anymore. Numbers, bookmaking, swag, the airport, chop shops, credit card fraud. Today, you can't do hardly any of that. I mean, there's cameras all over. I mean, the way I made money, even in the 90s, I could never do the same things today. to make money like that with all the surveillance and the technology and everything. It would be impossible. So what else would they do today? Stocks, white collar crimes. I mean, drugs. What else is there out there for them to do? When did the mob start wearing tracksuits? That's a good question. I don't really know, but I know I wore a lot of them. I had a house full of Sergio Cecchinis. I know that. I wore them all the time in the 80s and 90s. It was just a fan. It was just, it was just, a style, a mob style. What year did I sign out of high school? I left high school in 1969. When I was a sophomore, I got suspended. And I never went back. I dropped out in 1969 when I was 16, and I went to work for my father. But I did get a GED in prison, in Marcy State Prison, in 1991 or 92. I don't remember, or one of those years when I was in prison, I did get a GED. Oh my God, when did Bobby get shot by the guy in the Polish bar? Wow, that must be somebody from Matt Rock. That must be somebody from Ozone Park. How you doing? Bobby got shot by Anthony Stabile. He was with the Lucchese's in the Polish bar in the mid 80s. In the mid 80s, my father actually wanted to kill Anthony Stabile. We had sit downs over that, and all we got out of it was an apology because Anthony Stabile just had got straightened out. So that was in the early 80s. I would say it was in the early 80s because my father was still around. So that was probably like 1980, 81, somewhere around that time when Bobby Alvieri got shot. He was really meant to shoot Mike DeVito, and Bobby jumped up and got in the way, and Bobby got shot. Did the mob have anything to do with Pee Wee Herman's death? I don't think so. Not to my knowledge, anyway. Well, there's another one from Francisco. Was I very close to John A. Light? Yeah, I was very close to John A. Light. I know him since he's a kid. My brother actually was his little league coach, and then when I was in prison, I went to prison in '78. And when I came out of prison, that's when John was hanging out already with John Gotti Jr. He befriended him when I was in prison. And when I got out of prison, I knew they was making a lot of money. And I told my brother, how did this kid wind up with the Gottis? He's supposed to be with us. But my brother wasn't, like into the mob life as much as me. And so he sort of let A-Light go, and A-Light winded up with the Gottis. But yeah, I was close to him. I'm still close to him. He's the one that got me into this. He's the one that put me on to my first show. So yeah, I'm still friendly with him. Like in The Sopranos, did anyone try to heist the Mafia poker game? Well, we all know my father robbed poker games back in the day in the 50s. That's how he winded up with Charlie Wagons and got straightened out. Today, I guess, I know my cousin Gene robbed a few poker games. Some people got away with stuff like that, and some people got killed. Do they do it today? Who knows? Was Jimmy Burke really the biggest hijacker in the city at one point, as mentioned in the movie? I don't know if he was the biggest, but he was definitely one of the biggest. Listen, they had Robert's Lounge you could hit Kennedy Airport with a rock. And back in the day, Kennedy Airport was like an ATM machine. That's true. That was portrayed in the movie, and everybody was robbing out of Kennedy Airport, and they were right there. So, they would take the drivers and they would get tips all day long, and they were major hijackers. The Gotti crew were major hijackers. That crew, Jimmy Burke's crew, major hijackers. My father had guys around him that were hijacking trucks. It was such a open forum. Everybody was robbing. I want to thank the sit down with Jeff Nadeau for I just got a donation. I want to thank the people that donated the money. Thanks to Jeff Nadeau on the sit down. The show was really awesome. I had a good time doing it. Looking forward to doing it again. Let's see what we got here. They're coming in kind of fast. Anthony, the guy who was collecting on your vending route, Louis, was with the New Jersey Genovese. He wasn't Italian, Spanish or Puerto. No, he wasn't Italian. He was. I believe he was Puerto Rican. He was a Puerto Rican kid that worked for them. That went on my route first. He was for their collector. He was a Spanish kid. Okay, let's see what we got here. It said, did I ever filter money out? Did I ever filter any? Did you, from Alec, did you all slowly filter money on the books? Yeah, you know, I mean, I didn't, you know, filter money. I mean, I was on the books. I was on the books. You know, I had a no-show job for tax purposes, but that's about it. No, my father was not at the Appalachian meeting. No, that was he wasn't around then. He was around, but he wasn't there. Who was more feared in the streets, Sammy or Casso? Casso was a maniac. I mean, you know, Casso was a serial killer. He killed people for no reason. He killed people over money. I mean, he killed a carpenter because he didn't want to pay him. He was an animal. Sammy wasn't an animal. Sammy was a mob guy. You know, Costa Nostra. You know, Sammy was a soldier. You know, he took orders. And there were two different types of people. You know, they were both feared. They were both men. But, you know, Casso was an animal. Sammy wasn't. Sammy was not like that. Sammy was more like my father. You know, they were killers, but they were just not like him, not like Gas Pipe. Gas Pipe was fucked up. Any Tommy Karate stories? You know, I didn't know Tommy Karate well. My father knew him. I know he killed my friend, a friend of mine. He killed Mark Ritter's son, who was doing business with us. You know, he had vending machines. We used to do business together. You know, he was another animal. You know, he killed his neighbor, the woman. He put her in a suitcase and buried her in Staten Island because she overheard a conversation or she was telling his wife shit about him. I don't know, some crazy story. You know, I know my father went to his wedding, but, you know, that's about it. Did I ever see Arnell's priest outfit? No, but I know it's alleged that he did a piece of work dressed up as a priest, but I never saw it. No. That's from George. Phil, Ronald. Were you guys involved in the projectionist unions? Yeah, they were involved in every union. I mean, everybody was involved in union. The mob had every union. There was every union out there. I mean, here's another one from jail. Was the Iceman a fraud? I mean, the Iceman was the killer. I don't think that it was everything they say about him is true, but he was a killer. He did you know, he was a killer, and but I don't believe everything that's out there about him is true. Any Nino Gaggi stories? You know, I didn't know Nino well. My father was very good friends with him, but you know, he had a dangerous crew with him. They were all killers. You know, he was Roy DeMeo's captain. You know, and I know at the end he fell out with Paul. You know, he fell out with Paul, and you know, we all know what happened to him and Roy DeMeo. So no, but I don't have any personal stories about him outside of what everybody else knows, really. Roberto Duran, any Muhammad Ali stories with the Mafia? You know, all I could tell you is the mob ran the fight game at one time, especially in the 40s and 50s. You know, they ran it up into the 60s. We all know Sonny Liston was mobbed up. And before him, everybody was mobbed up. You couldn't get a fight. And their Gambino family, I forgot the captain's name for the life of me. I can't think of his name, but my father told me on many occasions that you couldn't get a fight in New York without his okay. You know, and he was with the Gambinos. He was a captain with them. But I just can't think of his name. Chucky Baby, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have I ever met Felipe or Anthony Campos or Zeke? Yeah, I met Zeke. Yeah, Squat. Yeah, I know him good. I know Arnold good. Arnold Squat. I know him since I'm a kid. I met him in the '70s. I used to work in a crap game on Gun Hill Road when that was one of my first jobs when I got working with my father, and he would come up there, him and Funzy, and they would come up there and shoot crap. I know him for many, 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 many years. Good guy. I think he passed away now. He also was in Allenwood prison with my father. Good guys. Him and Funzy, really good guys. Did I know Tony DeBreezy? No, I didn't know him personally, but I knew who he was from Lulu. Another one from Anthony J. Rumor has it Caruso used blow. He probably did. Who knows? Maybe he did snort coke. Everybody was snorting coke back then. Will the Jets make the playoffs? Well, they just got cooked. They just got a great running back. I mean, I'm a Jet fan from back in the days of, Joe Namath was my idol. And my father hated Joe Namath. And we had a lot of fights about Joe Namath growing up. My father did not like him. I don't know why. He didn't like his style. My father was a Johnny Unitas, Bart Starr kind of guy. And we had a lot of fights. We used to call Joe Namath the Muff Diver. But that's a story for another day. But yeah, I hope the Jets make the playoffs. I mean, they got Aaron Rodgers. They got this kid now, Cook. I mean, we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. They got a tough schedule. I mean, they got a really tough schedule. They play like Buffalo twice. They play Kansas City. I mean, they got a tough schedule. So we'll I mean, the first 4 games are against like really, really good teams. So I mean, the first 4 games of the season are going to tell a lot about the Jets, as far as my opinion goes. So we'll soon find out. It says Tyson's trainer, not Gus D'Amato, but Teddy Atlas was known to have links with the Genoveses. I don't know. As far as Mike Tyson goes, he was ferocious. And if the old man Gus would have lived, his career probably would have been different. But I don't know anything about Teddy Atlas. I mean, so many people were linked up to mob guys in that fight game, so it goes back for years. So, but I don't know anything personally about that. From Giancarlo, do I miss any certain guys from the past? Yeah, definitely. I definitely miss guys from the past. I miss my sister. I miss my daughter's godfather, my partner, very much. Frankie. I miss my friend Sal very much. I miss my neighborhood. I miss Ozone Park. I miss my godchildren, Nikki and Julia. I miss my nieces and nephews that live in the neighborhood that I don't get to see as often as I would like. So yeah, there's definitely people I miss and definitely people I love. I miss a lot of, I miss a lot of people. But unfortunately, this is the road I chose. And, this is life. Sammy says, I'm moving to Arizona. I know Sammy mentioned that. Sammy asked me if I'd be willing to move to Arizona, and and if it's right and the move is right, and and I could do things that I want to do, like get out there and help people and, help myself and, and support myself. And, I would be willing to move to Arizona, to LA, wherever that may be, and it's a beautiful place, Arizona. The people that are around Sammy are beautiful people. He's got a good outfit out there. He runs a good ship, a tight ship, very professional. And I would definitely give it some serious consideration to go out there. From James, is Don King a made man? Don King would have fight the fight promoter? No, but he did do a bid for manslaughter. I know that before he became a big fight promoter, but he definitely did a bid for manslaughter. I guess that's the same Don King we're talking about, right, Jim? Thanks, Mike, for the donation. His question is about John Panisi. Listen, I don't know John Panisi. I know he's got a podcast. I know he was a made guy, I guess, of the Lucchese family. I don't know him. I don't never remember meeting him. Don't remember hearing much about him. I know he cooperated, without getting arrested. He just rang the FBI's bell because he thought something was going to happen to him or something. But I don't know the guy, so I really have nothing to say about him, either good or bad. But I don't know the guy. I hear a lot of questions about this other guy too, Anthony Rondon, this crazy guy that's going around telling people he killed 200 people. As far as I know, he's all full of shit. Now he's saying he plotted to kill the Pope. The guy's crazy. I don't even know why people entertain him. I got a question here from Jeff Tilley. Was Greg De Palma a powerful guy in the family? I want to welcome to the live chat. Remember, was Greg De Palma a powerful guy in the family? He was very wealthy. He had some juice. I want to say he was powerful. He was sort of a kind of a brown nose when John was the boss. I know that. He was definitely a brown nose. He was up John's ass. John told him once he liked his car, he gave John the keys to the car. He had some souped up sports car that he came to the Bergen Hunt Fish Club once, and he gave the car to John. But I wouldn't say he was powerful. He was, but he had some juice. He had some juice and he had some pull, definitely. James wants me to talk about Trump's RICO. I talked about that earlier. It's ironic that Giuliani got indicted with him. I think it's kind of dangerous what's going on with Trump. I think he's getting kind of railroaded, and I think everybody should be concerned about what's happening with this country today. Where our priorities are all screwed up. So I don't think I'm going to see it. I don't think I'm going to live to see it, but I think this country's on its way out. Unfortunately, that's just my opinion. And I hate to say that because, this is the greatest country in the world, or was the greatest country in the world, but it's headed in a bad direction. I didn't know Danny Green, the Irishman. I saw the movie. It was a good movie. I know a lot of it was true. I didn't know Peanuts, who was mentioned in the movie, who was the underboss of Cleveland. I had to sit down with him over his son, which I talked about. But I didn't know the Irishman, no. This is a question from Anthony M. Any Johnny or Charlie Caniglia stories? I don't hear much about them. They were, Johnny Caniglia was like a man's man. He was a good guy. My father loved him. Guy always looked out for me. Every time the guy saw me, he gave me money for my father's commissary. I did some business with him. I made money when he was a killer. He was a hitman. He was, one of the shooters on the Paul Castellano hit. Charlie was just a psychopath. Charlie was a totally different type of guy than his brother Johnny. Johnny had way more class than Charlie. Charlie killed my friend Michael in front of the Blue Fountain Diner for no reason over an argument. He stabbed him and the kid died. I testified at Charlie's trial over that murder. Charlie would, dissolve bodies in acids of big barrels of acid on Fountain Avenue in the junkyard him and Johnny owned. But Johnny was a classier guy than Charlie. Both killers, both dangerous, both wise guys. Um, from Philly Blunt, Anthony, who was your favorite storefront when you guys stand? I don't understand that question. I don't understand that question. This has to be someone from Ozone Park. Can you please talk about Nicky the Pig from Ozone Park? Gangster had 1 million kids. I used to date one of his daughter, Anna. Nicky the Pig was a pig. Nicky the Pig was a gambler. He made a lot of money. He was a cooperator. You know, he cooperated against this guy, Anthony. Oh my God, I got a brain block. And this guy got 25 to life. He was what his name says, Nicky the Pig. You know, he was a character. He was definitely a character. I knew him well. I didn't know Muggsy. I don't know. It's a question about some guy, Muggsy. That's the same. Here's the one from Muggsy. Anthony, did Tony Lee's daughter get into a bad car accident back in the day? Wow, yeah, she did, Teresa. A very, very bad accident. She was in the hospital for 2 days. We didn't even know where she was. She was in a coma, lasting, life-threatening injuries, still to this day affected by it. Yeah, she was in the hospital for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And Tony Lee went there every day, took care of her, bathed her. I mean, I used to go with him all the time there. Yeah, she got into a very, very bad accident. His daughter, Teresa, back in the day, yeah. Here's one from James. What was the most you ever saw someone lose in one session in an actually crap game? Oh, my God. I saw guys lose 30, 40,000 cash. I mean, when I worked on the crap game in Gun Hill Road in the Bronx, the junk guys used to, like guys like Funzing in them and Arnold, they would come up there with paper bags full of money, 20, 30, 40,000 cash and lose it. I saw guys win 40, 50,000. I used to walk guys to their cars that won thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, I saw so much money change hands back then. It was crazy, crazy amounts of money. I used to tell guys, how could you come in and lose $30,000 cash, $20,000 cash? I used to tell them I would go around the world with that money. This is when money was money back then. Chucky Baby, thanks for the donation. Thank you. Here's one from Donald. Did you like John Jr. when you were in the streets? I liked him. I mean, he was who he was. He was John's son. I mean, I never really hung out with the kid. But I mean, I had no dislikes to him. I mean, I didn't like sometimes how he carried himself and how he acted. But I never disliked him or hated him. I mean, I don't think, as far as today goes, I don't think he takes responsibility for his actions. That's my only qualm with him, that he doesn't take responsibility for his actions. So I thought I answered that question. Did I ever meet with Philip High or Anthony Campos or Zeke Squateri? Yes, I did. I met with Zeke Squateri. Arnold, that's Arnold. His real name is Arnold Squateri. Zeke, they used to call him Zeke, was his nickname. I met him. I knew him very well. I knew Andy. I knew all of them. Really good guys. I knew Arnold, Zeke, since I was a kid. At the crap games, I met him in the early 70s when I first started working for my father. I knew him well. He became the acting boss of the Gambino family. John straightened him out. When John became the boss, he got made. He was one of the heroin dealers that John straightened out. I said that many times, that when John became the boss, a lot of guys that sold junk all got straightened out, and they all had a lot of money at the time. Did I ever know Charlie Green Eyes Clemenza? Worked for him and his father at his junkyard in Canarsie. Sorry, no, I never. Christopher, I don't believe I knew him. Knew them, I'm sorry. There's one from Kevin. You guys at 88th Street Park wrapped up. Yes, we did. That was our park. We were the 88th Street boys. That, you know, I lived right across the street, you know, and that was our park. You know, that was our park. We hung out there. We lived there. We grew up in that park. I hung out in that park when I was a little kid in 1959. You know, I played in that park. I grew up in that park. And I guess you could say we had that park wrapped up for sure. Now it's a different world in that neighborhood, and it's a different park. Let's see, what's this one say? Philly Blunt, Anthony, where was your safe house located at after doing work? I didn't have a safe house. I mean, you know, whenever, you know, the thing happened with my brother-in-law, I just went home that night. You know, I didn't go hide nowhere. My father, after he did work, he used to go hide out in Atlantic City and go drink in a 500 club. You know, that was his spot. He would do a piece of work, and, you know, he would go to Atlantic City, and then my mother would take the train to Atlantic City. My father had one guy, this guy, Freddie Hott. He was the only person that knew where my father was. After my father did a piece of work for the family, Freddie would pick him up, and Freddie would drive him to Atlantic City. And he was the only person that knew where. Nobody else knew where my father was, not even Tony Lee. Nobody knew. Just this guy, Freddie, knew where my father was. And then my mother would bring me to my grandmother's house, bring me and my brother to my grandmother's house. And my sister, if it was after she was born, and my mother would take the train to Atlantic City and meet my father. That was his thing. It says here from John Depp. I read the book Joe Dogs with your father in it. Him and those guys in Florida sounded dangerous. I don't think Joe Dogs was dangerous, but you know, the crew, that Tommy Agua's crew was pretty dangerous. Yeah, so they were pretty dangerous. Who was my father's favorite gangster? Without a doubt, Albert Anastasia. He was my father's idol. Albert Anastasia was my father's idol. You know, my father loved Albert Anastasia. He's always said he was the toughest guy he ever met, and he always said Gambino was the smartest guy he ever met. All right, people, I'm going to about wrap it up now. If I missed your question, I'm sorry. You know, they come at me fast and furious, but, you know, please tune in again, and, you know, and I'll get to you, or write it in, send it to my website. So I want to thank everybody. It's been a blast. Thank everybody that donated, and thank everybody that even just tuned in. It was fun. And I'm looking forward to doing it again. So I'm excited to announce both Michael Francis and Sammy the Bull will be coming on my show, as maybe not as regulars, but regularly on my show. Michael was on the show. We're editing it now, putting it together. And my show I did with Sammy on his platform is being edited, and Sammy's going to put that out soon. And then after that's out, Sammy and I will try and get together, and he'll be coming on my show. So let's all look forward to that. I know I'm looking forward to that. So, and that's about it. So, you know, please become a Patreon member, get your Mafia history questions answered, and become a member. And don't forget about the coaching. You know, I'm going to be recovery sober coaching. If anybody's interested in a recovery coach / sober coach, please contact me at my email, AnthonyRuggianoJr.com, and we can make arrangements. Thanks, and have a good day.